Welcome to the Blueprints to Buildings podcast. I'm your host, Glen Palmer, and on this show, we interview the movers and the shakers in the world of property development and real estate. So this short show is brought to you by PropTech Metaverse Technology, which is a new way that's changing how developments are visualized, marketed, and sold that removes the need for outdated 3D models. So we use this tech to save property developers on 11% on construction costs, increase off-sales plans, and save between 8 and 12 weeks of concept timelines. So to find out more, direct message me on the LinkedIn at Glen Palmer Secure or have a look in the show notes below. So today on Blueprints to Buildings, I'm joined by Kirk Kistner. So he is the founder of AEC Pathfinders. Kirk's got a seriously interesting background. Years of leading business development inside big construction firms like Skanska, and now he's helping architecture, engineering, and construction teams win more work through smarter strategy and better storytelling. He's one of those people who really gets the human side of the industry and what makes clients trust you and what turns a proposal into a partnership. Kirk, it is an absolute pleasure having you on the show, and I appreciate you taking time out to come chat with me. Welcome to the show.
I'm genuinely excited to be here. Any day I get to talk about the AEC industry, the people, the purpose, the legacy behind it, that's a good day. After 4 decades working in both the engineering and construction industries, I've really got to see just about everything. Firms that rise because they're aligned and others that struggle when leadership shifts or markets change overnight. Those experiences are really what led me to create AEC Pathfinders to help owners, boards, executives protect what they've built and prepare for what's next. AEC Pathfinders helps firms navigate the hard but essential work, succession planning, board of directors creation and alignment, leadership transitions, and business development and strategy and growth. So I'm thrilled to dig in today. Let's talk leadership growth and how we can build firms that stand the test of time.
Brilliant. So I'd like to start off a meeting like I start off every single podcast, and that is a good old faithful of mine. So if time travel became a reality and you had a chance to go back in time to when you first started your career, what advice would the person you now tell your younger self?
If I could go back in time, grab a cup of coffee with my younger self, I'd probably start with slow down and pay attention to what really matters. I think that you're very excited early on. I thought success was about speed, how I made it to the top as quickly as possible, finish the project, win the next job, move up the ladder. But really, leadership and legacy, they're built on consistency and connection. I tell myself to build relationships before I need them, to listen a whole lot more than I speak, and realize that every interaction shapes your reputation. Projects will end, markets will shift, but your integrity and the way you treat people will echo for decades. So I'd say be curious, stay humble, and build something and someone that lasts.
Man, that's a good answer to that question, Kirk. I really like that one. So in the AEC space, it's full of firms doing, really good work, but only a few of them seem to consistently win the right kind of projects. Now, from what you've seen, what separates those firms from the rest of the firms?
I think it's all about clarity. The firms that consistently win don't just have great people. They know exactly who they are, they know who they serve, and why they matter. They don't chase every RFP or project that hits their inbox. They pursue work that aligns with their purpose and plays to their strengths. It's sort of like chemistry. Winning teams create natural alignment between their story and the client's mission. When leadership, marketing, and operations are rowing in the same direction, clients feel that cohesion immediately. The firms that struggle, they're usually chasing volume instead of vision. The ones that win keep coming back to the same truth. Clarity to me beats chaos every time.
No, nice one. No, yeah, I tend to agree with that 100%. A lot of people get sort of uh, mixed up in the, winning contracts and getting the next job done, and trying to, like you say, right at the beginning, trying to, progress really, really fast without building that connection. And I think that is extremely important. So going on that, you talk about the power of connection, and it's not just the numbers or the visuals. It's how teams can bring more authenticity into their sales pictures without it being forced or salesy. So how do you go about doing that, about bringing those pitches in, without making it feels like a sales pitch?
Gotcha. Yeah. So the first thing is you can't fake authenticity. I mean, it's just not possible to do that. Not in this business, at least for sure. It's not a tagline. It's not a performance. It's about showing up and being curious, and genuinely caring about the client's story, their people, their challenges, and their community impact. When you lead with curiosity, you stop pitching and you start connecting. You begin to understand what really matters to the clients, and that allows you to align your firm story with theirs. Uh, Clients can tell instantly when you're selling versus when you're listening. Real connection happens when you stop trying to impress and really start trying to understand. That's where trust and lasting partnerships begin. I know for me, when I was at Bartlett Cock General Contractors, we focused significantly on education. That was our niche, both higher ed and K through 12. And it really spawned from our people wanted to build projects that had a lasting impact on the community that we lived in, that we were involved with, and that felt good to everybody.
Yeah.
Some firms do great building space that just is to be leased, and Bartlett Cock really wasn't that firm, and that's how we became authentic in our pitches, is just connecting with that value of education and educating people to make the world a better place. And, we landed on our core purpose there of building better lives. And that's everything we did centered around that core purpose and our core values.
Man, and that is a good value to have, and it goes beyond that. It's always about that. Know, like, and trust factor. You've got to build these relationships with these people and really understand what their needs are. And a lot of people, a lot of sales sort of forget that people like to buy off people. At the end of the day, people like to integrate with people. And if you get that right and you get the building of the relationships right, I think, it becomes easy. It doesn't become selling anymore. It just becomes, a partnership. So plenty of firms have really solid, BD plans on paper, but can't seem to follow through. So what's the real blocker here? Is it the process? Is it the mindset? Or is it actually the leadership? In your opinion, what is the blockers?
Well, it always comes back to leadership. I mean, the every time I've been in creating a strategic business plan, a business development plan, you see some firms and they create the plan and it gets just put on a shelf and never really revisited after that. You can have the most elegant plan in the world, but if leadership doesn't model the behavior, it dies on the vine. Business
Yeah.
development isn't a department. I'll tell you that. It's culture. And that was, the one thing when I started at Bartlett Cock, we were doing about $90 million a year that first year I came on board in volume. And it was a firm that was totally reliant on really one rainmaker. And I was sort of the third generation of rainmaker. You had Bartlett Cock Jr., who founded the firm, and he was the original. The next CEO, Dwayne Poza, became the next rainmaker, and then I was brought in to be the third. But I also had to focus on changing that culture as well and making sure
Mm-hmm.
that everybody, I look at construction and safety is everybody's job, quality is everybody's job, business development is really everybody's job. And if you get the whole team bought into that, you're going to make strides.
Yeah.
In the best firms, everybody feels responsible for growth. Leaders are visible, they're engaged, they're consistent. They don't just talk about relationships, they live them. When
Yeah.
leadership leans in, it creates momentum. When they don't, even the best processes stall. And I mean, that's just unfortunately reality. A plan on paper won't drive results, but people do.
Yeah.
And it starts at the top.
Yeah. Always. Always at the top. And cascades down, of course. So, with the immersive tech, the 3D walkthroughs, and the digital twins becoming a lot more common in this space, how do you see visualization changing the way AEC teams tell their stories to clients?
I think it helps with communication significantly. We're in an amazing era right now where clients can experience a project before the first shovel hits the dirt.
Yeah.
Tools like 3D visualization and digital twins are giving clients a front row seat to the future. But here's the catch: technology alone doesn't win work. The storytelling does at the end of the
Yeah.
day. You've got to be able to mix that in. I know I tried to always make our pitches be more about almost like a client meeting where we could show them that shiny toy, that digital twin, that visualization, use those tools to tell human stories, show them how we're solving problems digitally before we're encountering them in the field. Uh,
Hmm.
how the school that we were going to build was going to inspire students, how the hospital that we were going to build was going to bring comfort, and how this community space would foster belonging. When you merge cutting edge visualization with empathy and purpose, you're not just showing a building, you're showing a better future. And that's really what clients
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's AI can do amazing things. Digital twins can do amazing things, and they can, like you say, you can showcase a building before a brick has been laid. But without that story and without that passion behind it, it sort of gets lost in interpretation. So moving on, you've left the corporate world to build AEC Pathfinders from scratch. What was the moment that you knew you had to take that leap? And what surprised you the most since doing it?
Yeah, so the moment really came with COVID, and it was a handful of moments, instead of just one. But what I started to see is while I was at Bartlett Cock, we had subcontractors that were just deciding to close their doors and leave the market. Their kids maybe weren't interested in their business. They were sort of worried about what COVID would bring and what was before we had it all figured out. And I'm talking about the first few months when we thought it was catastrophe there for a while. They were just shutting their doors down. I saw
Mm,
several general contractors that were building big work that just closing their doors and not getting any value from their organization. Uh, I'd also say my calling had shifted from building projects to really building leaders as well and trying to create legacy. I had spent really 4 decades sort of helping firms grow. I
hmm.
started in operations. I have a degree in building construction, so I was a hands-on builder. but I quickly moved into strategy and growth and business development. Um, and wanted to help companies. I've always also been very interested in sort of these generational cycles that go through our culture and economies. And I wanted to help firms deal with leadership transitions, ownership changes, cultural shifts, and thought this is where I could make the biggest impact.
Yeah.
Demographics are sort of in my favor right now, and so I really did lean into that. And that's when AEC Pathfinders was born. I retired at the very beginning of 2025 and started working with my company really 3 weeks after I retired. The first
Yeah.
organization I've worked with. You know, what surprised me the most was how rewarding these deeper conversations have been. Sitting with owners and board directors and talking about legacy and culture and stewardship have just been empowering. And when you
Yeah.
strip away the noise of daily operations and trying to hit schedule and budget and safety and some of that, you find really what truly drives these leaders and the desire to leave something lasting and meaningful. And that's really what fills my cup, you know, every morning.
Yeah. I mean, that's beautiful. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, blueprints buildings. It's all about. I've interviewed architects. I've interviewed, a whole range of people within that industry. But going into the culture, going into, what you've just described, it's something different and it's something unique. And I really appreciate you being on the show. Thoroughly enjoyed today's show, and really appreciate how you think about bridging that people, process, and purpose. So again, thanks for being on the show. Really appreciate it. And thanks to the listeners. Kirk, just before we go, if listeners want to get in contact with you and learn about AEC Pathfinders, what are the best ways for listeners to do that?
So I've got a website, aecpathfinders.com, sort of all one word, aecpathfinders.com. They're also welcome to call me. It's 210-232-1450, 210-232-1450. I mean, at the end of the day, this industry, the AEC industry, isn't just about steel and concrete. It's about people, the culture you create, the leaders you develop, and the legacy you leave behind. And that's what
Mm-hmm.
defines success for in my opinion, the AEC industry and for AEC Pathfinders. You know, every firm has a story worth protecting. My job is helping leaders write that next chapter, create clarity and courage and purpose, so that every owner, executive, and board member listening can start now. You don't have to
Yeah.
wait for a crisis or a transition to force the conversation. You know, ask yourself, what am I building that will outlast me? And
Yeah.
legacy is something that happens today. It's not something that you wait for as far as that goes. So
Yeah.
thank you, Glenn, for having me on. This has been
Yes.
an incredible conversation. I hope it sparks new thinking and how we all can protect what matters and build what's next.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Kirk. And as a reminder, the show it's sponsored by PropTech Metaverse Solutions, a new way that is changing how developments are visualized, marketed, and sold that removes the need for outdated 3D models. If you would like to learn more, feel free to reach out to me directly on LinkedIn. You'll find in the link in the show notes below. Thanks for tuning in to Blueprints to Buildings. I'm your host, Glen Palmer. I was joined by Kirk Kistner, and I'll see you in the next episode.